Hello and welcome back to No Bullshit. Today we turn to talking about the Snyder cut of Justice League, a very troubled DC comic books movie that came out in 2017. The original Justice League was only about 2 hours or so, but apparently the Zack Snyder cut that fans have been asking for, it could be over 5 hours. That was the original cut of the movie from the original director Zack Snyder, and after fans have begged and begged the company to release this extended cut, it looks like it's finally happening now, and it's going to come out on HBO Max next year. This is pretty exciting for a lot of comic book fans, particularly the ones invested in the Superman and Batman characters. Wonder Woman is also a part of the team, as is Aquaman and the Flash. So these are some pretty big league, heavy duty, hardcore comic book characters from the DC universe, and Justice League was their attempt at sort of making a combo Avengers-like film that kind of pretty much failed. It didn't make enough money. It was totally reviled by critics. I watched it myself. We did an extended review on here, and all we had pretty much was bad things to say about it. Granted, you could try to pick up a few cool things out of there. There are some cool graphics. Batman is always badass. Everyone liked Ben Affleck as Batman. There's a few little good notes, but overall, the movie failed. It was really bad, and we're going to talk about more of that today and what this whole story involves. There's actually a long history going on here, starting off with the director having to leave the project. Then they pick up a new director, they release this shorter cut, and everything kind of went downhill from there. And now we're facing a very positive new change for this. We're seeing people get excited about this new cut coming out next year. It's going to be really cool, really exciting, and we're going to talk about it more soon too. But first, let's take a quick moment to check out our sponsors, the NoBS Special Floodlight. This special floodlight is very exciting and very cool, and an awesome feature that can be added to any home. Here you can see a picture from Boundary of their first ultra bright floodlight. You can put anywhere you want, even if there isn't electricity. This is battery operated, and it also has a little solar sensor that goes on once the sun goes down. And if you can see here in these pictures, it lights things up pretty darn good. I have a couple of these on my house myself, and I can say they work very, very well. They're lightweight, very well made, and also a lot of light comes off of them. You can see here it lights up the whole place. They're automatic, so that's cool too, and you don't need any kind of plugs or any kind of electricity to run to them. You could put them on your porch like this, help you walk outside safely. This offer is only available today with my special link below in this video's description. Click on the link below and you'll get a special offer just for the NoBS crowd out there. So thanks for your time, and now back to the show. Great, now that that's out of the way, let's talk more about this Snyder cut. The Snyder cut, of course, is named after Zack Snyder, the director, who got pretty controversial when he took over the DC universe. He started off by making the Man of Steel movie from around 2013, I believe, and then he moved on to Batman v Superman from 2016. This is where things started to get more controversial. Man of Steel was okay, kind of not liked too much, but still a good step in the right direction. But by the time we got to Batman v Superman, things got really controversial. People had a lot of controversial, polarized takes on that movie. Granted, it still made a ton of money though, so that's what made them lead into the next film, which was Justice League. Now, there were a few side movies going on at this time too. There was a Wonder Woman solo movie, and eventually they made an Aquaman solo movie later. But right now we're talking about 2017. They made Justice League. This was directed by Zack Snyder, who pretty much shot most of the film. But what ended up happening was he had a family emergency, so he had to leave the project before he could finish. And after that, that's when a lot of shenanigans started to happen with the studio. Warner Brothers made this movie. They decided to bring in another director who directed a similar movie. Joss Whedon came to take over, and he put his signature comedic spin on things, and also had to cut down the film from like 5 hours, like we said, to a more manageable 2-hour regular movie. Now, Joss Whedon is very different from Zack Snyder, so there was some trouble for him adapting. Zack Snyder and the way he was building the DC movies was much more serious, much more gritty, and not a lot of humor to it, just like very straightforward, hardcore, kind of darker and sadder. And that's the way DC was going. And Joss Whedon, of course, came from directing the Avengers movies. He directed Avengers 1, Avengers 2. That's the Marvel Universe. That's a similar setting. You're in a comic book team-up movie, but at the same time, Joss Whedon has a more comedic, more lighthearted take. That's how the MCU is overall. Marvel movies have more lighthearted, there's serious stuff going on. They're saving the world, but there's humor in there. It's not all as strict and dark and that kind of tone that they have in DC. Now, this kind of mishmash of directors is where things started to go bad. And then the studio was meddling and telling them they had to shorten things, they had to cut things out, yada, yada, yada. The movie turned out pretty awful. Another thing worth noting was the terrible villain, the terrible script. They faced this big CGI villain that just looked really bad. The graphics were too much. It was just too much CGI. It was just like a big kind of mess on the screen. And that resulted in Justice League failing in 2017. Now, as I said, we're talking about the new release. I'm actually a little excited for it. I love these kinds of movies. I wanted Justice League to do well. I love Batman stuff. I like Superman as well. So I'm kind of excited about Zack Snyder Cut. The fans have been asking for it forever. I didn't know it was going to happen. For a long time, it didn't seem like anything was going to happen. It's been over 2 years now, but something popped up that gave it a chance. Here's what we're talking about today. See, I know why it's coming now, because what happened was HBO Max is coming out. HBO is coming out with a new streaming service. They're starving for content. They're looking for ways to get people to come and subscribe to their new platform. Basically, HBO is making a version of Netflix of their own. And since HBO is owned by the same company that owns DC, we're talking about Warner Brothers, Time Warner. That company runs the whole show here, so they're going to put their DC movies on HBO Max. And in addition, this Zack Snyder Cut is going to be one of the first things that people are looking for. I mean, this is the first bit of original content, sort of original content I've heard about HBO Max. This is the first thing that made me think about watching it. So this is going to be a big push for them, and that's why it's happening. HBO's coming out with a streaming service, and they decided to finally give the fans what they want. And that's what's happening now, and that's what's led us to more of today's story. First, I've got to check out here is a Ben Affleck tweet. Ben Affleck has kind of confirmed this was happening about an hour ago. He says, 2021, Zack Snyder, HBO Max, released the Snyder Cut. This is the hashtag that's been going around for a long time. And yeah, it's finally happening. We got this image here. We got this cool shot of the Justice League. This is from the movie. It seems a little old now. It's been 3 years. But hey, I don't think I've rewatched this movie. I don't think a lot of people have, because it was just such a mess that no one really rewatched it. So what better way to get back into it than to watch this new cut? And it's very interesting how they're going to do it too. We got more details on that in this article because, yeah, they're putting a budget on it. They're going to have to pay a lot of money. They're going to redo a lot of things. I don't think they're going to reshoot anything. Possibly, I don't know if they might do a few little things, but I think the $20 million mentioned here, this article from Hollywood Reporter says it will be an entirely new thing. Zack Snyder's $20 million plus Justice League cut plans revealed. So they're definitely putting money into it. Like I said, they're probably not going to reshoot anything. It's been too long. That time has passed. This is just about getting the footage they have and recutting it and putting it together into this long extended thing. And like I said, this says it's going to be a new thing. And I was mentioning how the original cut was like 5 hours. So they could easily make this into like a mini series, like 5 episodes of 1 hour each, or maybe like a 3-part extended movie, like The Hobbit kind of thing. I mean, that was granted more like 3 movies about 1 book, but this is what's going on, and this is the news. And it's actually pretty exciting, and it's a good move for the fans. This is a good news for us and the fans and the comic book lovers. Batman, Superman, all of these fans are getting what they want, and it's great to see people like HBO, Warner, them kind of listening to us and finally kind of giving in and caving in and saying, hey, we admit it, Justice League wasn't the best, we made our money off of it, we've finished that project, but now years later we can move on. And I think part of that too, and what a lot of people expect is, since us the fans are getting what we want, there's going to be some backlash about this. There's going to be possibly SJWs, leftists, other haters who go after fans like us a lot. They call us fanboys, they call us whatever, jerks, losers in our base basements watching comics. Some of that might be true, but no, we're not that bad. We're really just impassioned, very excited customers. We want to watch something, we ask for it, and this is us getting it. So it's a good sign that could get us some backlash later. We'll get to that if that actually happens, when that actually happens. But for now, let's read on about this story and see if we got details about this Snyder Cut. HBO Max will debut the project in 2021, possibly in a 4-hour director's cut or in 6 TV-style chapters, as the Helmer gets the gang back together with the original post-production crew to score, cut, and finish visual effects. It was very early on Monday morning in November when director Zack Snyder and his wife, producing partner Deborah Snyder, received a call from their agent. Let's be a bit more precise, it was 7 a.m. But more importantly, it was the day after the second anniversary of the release of Justice League, the DC superhero movie, that Snyder was forced to exit due to a family emergency, which was then substantially reshot and retooled by replacement director Joss Whedon. So yeah, that's another point worth pointing out about Justice League. Like, Snyder had a 5-hour cut ready, but then they had to reshoot a lot too. So it wasn't just about Whedon having to shorten it. He had to reshoot stuff and retool it to kind of give in to the producers. Now, he was in a tough spot, but it was a lame kind of thing to do, but he was probably given a ton of money and just had to kind of do what the producer said. And that's why, another reason why it turned out so bad. In the time since its release, something unusual happened. A growing movement of fans rallied by the hashtag Release the Snyder Cut had called, agitated, petitioned, even bought a Times Square billboard and chartered a plane to fly a banner over Comic-Con for Snyder's version to be released. And on the film's second anniversary, the hashtag had its biggest day ever, and even the movie stars Gal Gadot and Ben Affleck added their voices on Twitter. So now we got the fans and we've got the lead actors getting behind this. Like, people want to make it happen, and if there's an audience for it, there should be a market for it, and this is why HBO is making a good move to make this actually happen. So here, the morning after, was their agent saying that Toby Emmerich, chairman of Warner Brothers Pictures, was acknowledging the movement and, more importantly, was willing to accede. This is real. People out there want it. Would you guys ever consider doing something, was what Emmerich was asking, Zack Snyder recalls. The answer to Emmerich's question, a whispered about secret for months, was revealed Wednesday when Snyder confirmed at the end of an online screening of his 2013 movie Man of Steel that his version of Justice League was indeed real, and that it will be coming to HBO Max in the Warner Media digital streaming service, launching May 27, and is expected to debut in 2021. Okay, that's a pretty cool and interesting reveal. I like how he did it during a screening, an online screening of Man of Steel, and that's a pretty cool thing that some recent directors have been doing. I remember James Gunn did a watch-along party on his Twitter too with Guardians of the Galaxy, and it looks like Zack Snyder did a similar thing with Man of Steel, which was from 2013. I got that right. Score. Good job, Brooks. And yeah, this is a good announcement, a good way to reveal it. Justice League Snyder Cut is happening, and it's also a basic admission from the studio, like, okay, there was some failings here, the thing didn't work out. I think Justice League still made money. I don't know if it was profitable. I would have to double check the stats. Let's check. So it looks like Justice League was still profitable. It made $600 million worldwide on a budget of $300 million. That's cutting it a little close, though, because sometimes you have to double these budgets to count for advertising. So I would say it's possible it broke even or made a little bit of money or lost a little bit of money. It's close. It's a little too close, too, especially for such a big project like that. So this is an interesting turn of events, a good way for Snyder to reveal it. Say what you want about the guy. I know Zack Snyder can be a little controversial, but he certainly has a fan base, and I've certainly been a fan of him for a long time. I remember watching his original Dawn of the Dead remake. I think that was one of his earliest movies. He also made 300. Watchmen is a great Zack Snyder movie, and now he's moved on to other DC projects, Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. I would say Batman v Superman is even watchable too. It definitely has its failings and it's kind of cringe at times, but it can also be fun. It's just really cool to see Batman v Superman, the kind of battle between them. But yeah, it's definitely not the best movie, and Justice League totally fell apart, but that's like almost not even Snyder's fault. You know, it's hard to blame the guy. He had to leave. He had a family thing. The studio took over and just kind of reworked everything, like really, really changed a lot. Like, you can't underestimate how much they changed there. Like we said, Whedon took over. He reshot a lot of things. They retooled a lot too. So it was definitely very different than what he intended. So hopefully this Justice League could turn out to be really cool, like interesting, like a similar thing. Like, people liked Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. This could be a proper successor to that. I know there are a lot of haters to that too. Don't get me wrong. I might get some backlash in the comments for being too positive here. I understand all the bad failings, but I also like to watch these movies for fun too. I don't always necessarily have to look too deep into them. Sometimes we do when there's a lot of SJW stuff, but that's not really the issue with these movies. I haven't heard a lot of woke progressive stuff in the Snyder movies. Now, other DC stuff has totally gotten terrible, like that whole Harley Quinn Birds of Prey stuff. That was a total mess, and that's the bad side, the really bad side of DC. That's where they're really failing and not giving the audiences what they want. So to see them kind of turn course, turn around and try to fix this, I really appreciate that, and I think it shows that fans are winning. And I think that the whole failing of Birds of Prey might be related to this too, not directly, not specifically, but these are another part of the DC universe. And the fact that Birds of Prey just failed really bad, and the fact that Justice League kind of failed before that, this shows that the studios are turning it around. They're trying to do better. They're getting Zack Snyder back involved. And HBO Max and Warner Brothers Pictures is to thank for this. And I think this is definitely a win for us. With all that said, that about wraps things up. Make sure you guys comment your thoughts on everything below. Are you excited about a Zack Snyder cut? Is this something you guys would watch? Would you be interested? Let me know in the comments below. Also, leave a like to help support this channel and get this video shared. Besides that, you guys have a great day.